All right, so I told all of you in segment two that I was going to create a video based on the assignment that had the most votes, and I wasn't surprised to see that object-oriented programming, or 5.04, was the one with the most votes because it can be a complicated idea to really wrap your head around. So I'm hoping this video will explain to you what object-oriented programming is and help you to complete your assignment. All right, so object-oriented programming is a type of programming language that mirrors how the world around us works. The code is organized into self-contained objects. So I know this definition is in the lessons, and so I want to give you some examples to help you to really understand. All right, so if I go to Starbucks and I order a black coffee, just plain old coffee, right? But I add sugar and creamer and whatever to it, um, does that change the black coffee for every single person who ever orders a black coffee? No. Okay. Another example would be if you have a hoverboard and you paint it with polka dots, does that mean that every hoverboard ever created is now polka dot in color or design? Well, no, it doesn't mean that, right? And this is because our world is made up of individual objects. So OOP, object-oriented programming, mirrors the way objects in our world work, okay? So this is useful in code because it helps us to organize, to maintain, and to debug our code. Um, I don't want to spend too much time getting into that part of it, but I am going to share a video with you that will explain this further. It's put out by Codable, and they have some neat videos on YouTube that would help to explain some of these concepts. Okay, so in order to use object-oriented programming, we have to understand what a class is. So what is a class? In programming, a class is a blueprint that defines what the object is in the code. So for example, and actually they go over this in the video too, but a blueprint for a car would tell us what a car has, a body, its wheels, engine, and it also tells us what the car does. It drives, it turns. So the blueprint is not the car itself, but it tells us what the car is and what it does. You take the class blueprint and then you use it to create your object. So the engineer is going to take the blueprint of the car, they're going to create the car. You're going to take this class blueprint to create the class superhero, okay? You can use the same blueprint to make as many objects as you want, and then you can change each object to be its very own unique object, okay? So we'll talk about that in just a moment, but first you have to look here at what I've got on the screen, and it says, meet code for Allah. This is her superhero. Superhero is anyone with extraordinary powers, which they use for good, right? So we're setting up the blueprint here when we say class superhero. It's the very first part that we need to set up our blueprint for a superhero. All right, then we have to initialize. We have to set what is the superhero? What does the superhero have? What does it do? And so this is where we're going to put in self name equals blank, hair equals blank. We're just putting in the quotes because we're not ready to fill that part in yet. And I put in personality 1, personality 2. You can put in anything you want here. You get to design your superhero, okay? The lesson, the template gives you a start, but you don't even have to use those. You can come up with your own if you want. So the initializer we set, in the initializer we set parameters, and those are our attributes. So we set the parameters here, and then we add attributes here. Self refers to the new object and calls on the parameters initially set. Okay, so we initially set these parameters, and self is going to give us these initial parameters that were set. So self.name is going to equal name, self.hair is going to equal hair, self.personality is personality 1. Now, This would make more sense if later I put in like self dot add strength points equals strength points minus points. So you can add other parameters here. But for the sake of this example, I just want you to see that how to set up your attributes and that what we're calling on here is the initial parameters that were set. And then you set up your main function. And in the main function, the statement new superhero actually creates the object of the superhero class. Okay, so this one is just this one object, code for Allah. So new superhero equals superhero. And inside that, I have set up the name, code for Allah. The hair is brown. First personality trait is kind. The second personality trait is brave. And then I'm going to call on these to create a story about my superhero. So I would say print my superhero's name is plus new superhero.name. Print she has the most beautiful brown hair. She is also kind and brave. And so what does that look like in Python? And I'm going to show you what that looks like in Python. All right, so now, of course, you know you need to put in your comments, so don't forget to do that. But then you set up class superhero, and inside class superhero, we have our initializer. So that is inside, it's nested inside the class. And then just like I showed you in the example, we have all of the code. Okay, and this new superhero calls on the one that we just named. And then it's calling on that initial attribute up here that was set up. And so down here is where I put in the specifics for those attributes for this object, because I can create another superhero. I can say second superhero equals superhero 2 and so on. Okay. This is just making this one unique. Okay. And then I run it based on the attributes I called, and it says my superhero's name is code for Allah. She has the most beautiful brown hair. She is also kind and brave. Code for Allah heard that an FLVS student was in trouble. And I'm even going to make this a little bit better because I did one time many years ago. I used to be a language arts teacher. All right. So now we want to level up our superhero. And this is where methods come into play. So we're going to move idle for just a moment. And we're going to go on and we're going to level up our superhero. Okay, so now that you've created your class blueprint and set up the initial schematics for the object superhero, you can now change or level up each object created by defining new methods. So the one that I chose to do is def add flying. And this is going to call on this the self attribute. So this adds flying to the superhero skills. And then I put in a condition statement here that says that if self.personality2 is equal to brave, it's going to print code for all it flies off to help and saves the day. All right, so adding methods makes your object smarter, it gives it more functionality, and it can do more than just create itself. I can now add so many different things to this object to make it however I want it to be, okay? So then how do I call on this new method? Well, down here, everything here is the same. I'm gonna move my video over here. Everything here is the same, but now I've added this in, new superhero dot add flying. So I'm calling on this function that I created up here, this method, to enter into my code so that I can use it. And remember, as long as personality2 is equal to brave, then it's going to print this. And we know that originally I set the code to equal to brave, right? So that means no matter what, every time I use this method, it's going to say that. That might not be how you want to set up your program. It might be. For the sake of this example, I thought that's how I wanted it to be, but you can make it all sorts of different ways. Now, I'm going to add this one in. I'm not sure when I copied and pasted if it will have any syntax errors, so it might. And if it does, you'll just have to bear with me while I fix that spacing. So remember, new superhero dot add flying, and it needs to be just like I said before. So add flying, and then open close parentheses. And it syntax was good. So now I've put that in, and it is going to say code for all heard that an FLVS student was in trouble. Code for all flies off to help and saves the day. Now for your assignment, it's asking you to write a story about your superhero. You are supposed to have you're either supposed to have one new method that you created or two methods using the one that was already created for you and then one that you created. Basically, you need one new method. Okay, so one of these type of things in here doesn't even have to have a condition statement unless you want it to. And then you also are supposed to add two attributes that were not given to you in the starter code. I hope this helps. I hope it makes some more sense. I know that in the assignment that you were given, it says self.strength points, and then you can do different things to take points away. You can do that if you want. I do have to tell you that if you're going to be doing any math, then down in your print, you're going to have to use the str function, because remember, when we are doing any addition, subtraction, so on, it is numeric data, which means that it cannot concatenate unless it is converted back into a string using the str function. But if you get stuck and you need any help understanding or putting this together, please reach out to me and let me know. I would be happy to help you. All right, have a great day.